Hello, my name is Charles. I am now making Flieger style 42 millimeter wristwatches from 1930s to 1950s Hamilton size 10 pocket watch movements. What you see on the screen now are examples of the watches that I am offering for sale.
So I frequently get asked, what's the difference between the 917 and the 921 movements that you use in your Hamilton Flieger conversions that you make? And does the 917 run worse than the 921? And a lot of questions like that. So I'm going to make this short video, show you the ins and outs of these two movements. Right now what I have here is the 917 movement on the Timegrapher. As you can see, it's been running at 281 amplitude and dead even. And here we have our 921 movement. I'm going to put it on a Timegrapher. And by the way, both of these have been running for 25 and a half hours now. These were wound up fully at 9:30 yesterday in the morning, and it's now 11:08 in the morning the following day. And this one's currently running +3 with 300 amplitude.
On pocket watches, most watchmakers shoot for an amplitude of 220 or better when fully wound, and hope for 260 or so at full wind. These are at 280 and 300 after 26 hours of running. These routinely run well over 300 degrees at full wind and still 280 to 300 after a full day of running. I'll rewind this one now to show that it has been running for a full day. So here we have our caliber 921 21 joule movement under the microscope. And this is our caliber 917 17 joule movement. As you can see, both are beautiful movements and both worthy of being displayed underneath the sapphire observation back. But the 21 joule movement is obviously more decorated and more beautiful. So let's take a little look at it and see what the differences are. First of all, obviously the decoration on the plates is a circular graining, where the 917 just has straight Geneva stripes, which, being an American movement, I'm not sure we can call them Geneva stripes, but that's what that decoration is called. They just took a mill and pretty much ran it over the plate back and forth 10 or 12 times. On the caliber 921, they set up the movement on a turntable and then rotated it as they milled it to get a circular milled pattern on the plates. And while they had the plates on the mill, they milled away some of the material here on the train wheel bridge. You can see the 917 is the same bridge. They just didn't cut out the channels between the rubies right here. They just wanted the 921 to have a more aesthetically pleasing look with the channels, and then they beveled the edges or gave it some anglage. Moving over to our ratchet and our winding wheels, you can see they've been black polished, which means they reflect all light only in one direction. When it's pointing directly at your eye, you see a white reflection. When it's in any other reflecting light in any other direction than directly at you, it looks black. The 917 has a simple circular graining, which is perfectly functional and again looks pleasant to look at. It's just not as time consuming as the black polishing is. We'll start on the balance wheel. At the balance, you can see it has fine regulation. The fine regulation is a complicated regulator system where you can turn this little screw with a micro regulation and fine tune the timekeeping of the watch. Coming back to the 917, it just has a simple regulator. You bump the regulator back and forth till you find the position that you're looking for. that gives you the best timekeeping. Still a perfectly functional system, just not as elegant as the system on the 921. Moving down the train, we can see a gold cap jewel here on the escape wheel, and then there is a steel cap jewel on the dial side hidden underneath the dial. On some finer watches, they would go ahead and make the dial side just as beautiful as the visible side, but Hamilton saves some money by using a steel surround on the jewel instead of gold on the dial side. Nonetheless, the cap jewel has a functional purpose. It covers the jewel, keeping the oil in its place, protecting it from air and drying out. That is not as relevant in this watch, being that it's a water and airtight case. Back when it was a pocket watches obviously aren't water resistant or airtight, and air intrusion would dry out the oils much faster. Here, back on the 917, we have a simple jewel, which again, being in a water and airtight case, is really all you need. Now, moving our way on down the train, if you look at the train wheels very closely, you'll see that they're shiny, reflective. They are either made out of solid gold or they are gold plated. I've never actually soaked any of these wheels in acid to find out if they're gold or gold plated or gold filled, but additional work has gone into making them more aesthetically pleasing. Whether they're gold or brass has no functional change on the way the watch works. And here, back on the caliber 917, you can see we have plain brass gears that haven't been polished. And also you'll notice that the center wheel has flat spokes. If we go back to the 921, you'll see the center wheel spokes have been domed, and a little extra work has been spent on them so that they look nice when they reflect the light. Now, coming farther on down the train, we get to the mainspring, and this is what I would actually call to be a true functional improvement on the 921. The caliber 921 has what's called a motor barrel. Motor barrels have additional jewels inside of them, which help the mainspring to release its power at a more consistent rate. Smoother power release gives you better, more consistent timekeeping, and possibly will run longer without binding up and stopping the movement. So the motor barrel is a technical improvement, though I have never actually noticed the caliber 921 being more likely to run well or run longer than the caliber 917 when both are properly serviced with the same modern white alloy mainsprings and running as they should. So in summary, the improvements to the 921 over the 917 are fine regulation, extra jewels on the escape wheel, gold train wheels, a motor barrel, and some additional embellishments and aesthetic upgrades. All of these improvements are time consuming and a demonstration of Hamilton's capabilities at that time, but when it comes to timekeeping, as you saw on the Timegrapher, both keep time well within specifications for a vintage watch and even a modern chronometer. So now that you know a little bit about the differences between the two movements I offer in these, I'm going to go ahead and show you some highlights about my process and what you get when you buy one, just in case you're interested. Every single one I sell is fully serviced. I use a brand new white alloy mainspring and modern synthetic oils, so that you get a 10-year service interval on these. Every one is pressure tested to 5 ATM or 50 meters. I use C1 luminescent paint on the dials. C1 glows brighter and longer than the typical luminescent paint used on Flieger watches that are on the market. I include both a black and a brown leather band. These are Flieger style bands with rivets and oversized buckles. They're milled steel buckles, they are not cheap stamped buckles. I have quick release spring bars in the band so you can change them as you wish. And it all comes in a nice padded laser cut box. I appreciate you watching to the end. Please click the like and subscribe buttons. If you want to be notified of future videos that I drop, click the bell icon. And if you're interested in purchasing one of these watches, check out the video description below.